Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
This is Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 295.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, and we're in December, guys. Another year is coming up, and I wanted to stay close to home today. Ryan Tervort lives in Colorado, but he's come out from Iowa, and he's on the pro staff for Calm Before the Kill TV with Bill Dease. And Ryan's got some great insights. He moved out here from Iowa and knows how to hunt those bucks in ag areas in Iowa. You're going to love the show, and I'm excited to bring Ryan to you. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hey, listeners, don't forget to text 33444 Food Plot for your free Food Plot ebook. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. I took a breath there, folks, because it's going to get in the teens tonight here in Colorado. So winter is finally upon us, and I've got Ryan Tervort here. And Ryan lives out in Colorado, but he's an Iowa guy, and he's pro staff for Calm Before the Kill. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited. Let's start off with a not so successful hunt you had in Canada, because everybody thinks you go to Canada, go north of the border, and it's instant $180. And you and I both know that's not true. And most people that traveled up there and hunted up there know there's big bucks up there, but they're few and far between. So tell us about your trip up there.
Yeah, I was up there with the outdoor guys in Ontario. It was a great hunt. We spent a week hunting our butts off, but we had warm weather. It was cold, frosty. A few days before we got there, bucks were moving. While we were there, things warmed up. I mean, we had 3 days where it stayed 60 or above around the clock, and deer went back to a nocturnal pattern. I had a nice buck on trail cam, made it scrape 50 yards for my one stand, but it was 10:30 at night. Not much I could do with that. It was a great hunt. And like I said, we saw a few deer, and last night we had a good buck bumping some does. Finally got some colder weather again, but he just would not step out of the brush for a shot. And, but like you say, yeah, that's hunting. It was still a great trip, and definitely nothing's a sure thing. You go in with an idea, you're going to walk away with the monster, and certainly the couple bucks we saw were pretty decent ones, but things got to come together to get the shot. So no, nothing's ever a guarantee.
That's for sure. And I know I was fortunate a long time ago. I went up to north of Edmonton, and actually it was Lloydminster, pardon me, and up in that province up there in Saskatchewan, and took a very nice buck. But it was 20 degrees below zero every single day I was there. I mean, we had to keep the truck running, 24 hours a day up there, and it was brutal. But I did it. I hung out, but and I didn't see that many bucks. And that's one thing I'd like to draw upon right here tonight is that you can go to Canada. You're going to see monster bucks, heavy mass. Some gnarly bucks, and everybody's seen the hunting shows. But talk about the slash. Talk about where you're hunting in the brush, or the bush, as they say up there, and the expectations the people up there tell you. In reality, how many bucks you should see and how many shooters. And a shooter up there, folks, is 150 or better, 4.5 years old, or 150 or better. In my opinion, what's your thoughts on that, Ryan?
Yeah, and I think also it kind of depends on the area where you're at. Unfortunately, due to some health stuff, we didn't get to go up to the island area that he had. Has a lot higher percentage of big bucks, so we were hunting a little lower down. And the average buck around there still, though, you're talking an average of 130, 140. With you got some good ones. And the one we did see, I know he would definitely clear 150. Probably I'd put him by about a 155 right in there. But he was the only one. Literally, he was actually the only buck that we saw the entire trip. I saw does almost every set. Had does literally less than 5 yards right under my tree, but because of the warm weather, the bucks weren't moving that much. And literally, we had one area we saw a buck. We saw him 2 different times. One time out in the middle of the bean field, and the next time we moved our setup, and he came in, bumped the doe out 50 yards broadside, but wouldn't follow her. And like you say, yeah, those, you get Saskatchewan and that, I'd say they probably definitely have, your shooter class is going to be a little higher. Ontario has some really good bucks, but they seem to be a little bit more few and far between than Saskatchewan and areas like that. The buck we said, huge body deer though. I mean, just massive body. And sometimes it can make it a little hard to judge their act just because it does look smaller, compared to their bodies. Bob, the guy I was hunting with, he showed me a couple of bucks he's taken over the last couple of years, and the areas we were hunting, and they were, like I said, most all of them were 145 and above. So I mean, good bucks, just nothing monstrous.
Yeah, when you mentioned Ontario, I've been up there hunting bear and a lot of walleye and pike fishing, and boy, that terrain, the part I've seen, is really, really tough cover. Yeah, there might be some ag areas, but for the most part, again, heading north of Lake of the Woods, Nestor Falls and Air Falls and up in that country, boy, it dense. Was that the type of country you were in, or were you in more ag and bush country?
No, it was more agriculture. It reminded me a lot of hunting Midwest, except that, the timbers are not open. Like you say, yeah, I mean, the underbrush is unreal. I mean, it is just thick. You got the heavy stands of hardwood timber and that in between crop fields, but to try and hunt in the timbers can be difficult. Just to, like I said, that's literally, that buck was within range of me, but so much brush, it just couldn't get a shot. I only had so many shooting lanes because it's just so thick up there that it really restricts unless you spend a lot of time clearing brush, but then you worry about messing up how the deer are moving because you've cleared everything out so much. So definitely for bow hunting, which is what we were doing, it makes it a little bit difficult to try and get a shot.
Well, and thanks for that. And with bow hunting, it makes it, triple hard. If they're in the bush at all, the arrow's going to deflect, and you don't really have a shot. With a rifle, you may or may not be able to find a hole to get a bullet through.
Yep.
So let's bring it down to where your hunting tradition started. I know you're from Iowa, and you've been hunting a long time. Let's talk about the hunting tradition in Iowa and how that all gets started.
I moved there when I was 9 or 10 years old, and didn't really have, at that point before then, my grandpa got me started in hunting back in Nevada. Going to the Midwest, my stepdad and them, they hunted, but weren't really into getting kids into it, which was unfortunate. And so I kind of had to teach myself, and took me a couple of years of learning what was where and that, and taught myself how to read the cover and everything. And by the time I was 16, I started bow hunting when I was 13, and 16 I took my first buck with a bow, a 158-inch 8-point, and been hooked ever since. It's Midwest, especially Iowa, known for monster bucks, and some properties that we had there really had some big bucks on them.
Now, you mentioned in the warm-up you've taken a 200 class buck. Is that with a bow or a rifle?
Muzzleloader. That was actually a few years back. Went back on to see my mom and that, and did a hunt while we were there. We were able to draw tags for the late season, and got in. And we had mainly doe tags, but we had a couple buck tags, and we knew this one big buck was in the area, and finally got on him I think it was our 5th day hunting, and was able to get a shot on him. Yeah, big non-typical, as a cactus drop tine on the one side, as a 25-inch spread. If he hadn't been, since it was late season, he was a little broke up from fighting. If he hadn't been broken up, he'd have had 30 scoreable points. But just a beautiful buck.
Oh my goodness!
Definitely beautiful.
Now, did you take him on a drive? You were in a stand. Kind of tell us about your setup.
We do, when we're gun hunting, we have a small group. We do kind of the drive, but we walk. So basically, our walkers, what we do is we were basically still hunting through, and we have 1 or 2 people set to where anything busts out, they can get a shot at. But otherwise, we're just moving slow, trying to get the deer just to stand up right in front of us. And he actually got up a little bit out there. So I fell in a hole and had a couple does get up, but was able to make a shot on him and make it happen, even with him not being able to get really right up on him. We quit shotgun hunting just because we didn't like hunting around the big groups where, there's 20, 30 guys, beating the brush and bullets flying everywhere. And we just decided that wasn't for us. So we stuck to archery, and then we'd wait until the late season when there wasn't many people out there where we could just hunt the way we wanted and either sit in stands in timber or do just small, slow walks on the ditches and that.
So if I understand you correctly, you were a driver, so there were posters, and you were ambling or stealthy walking or inching your way through the cover, and who stood up. How close was he when you first saw him?
Oh, he was. So when I first saw him, he was about 200 yards, trotting up the side of the ditch.
By a ditch, and, by a road, or is that a creek, or so people?
No, yeah, it's yep. So we were probably 400 yards off the road in a ditch bank where there was an old creek running through the middle of a big cornfield, and it had a bunch of tree row in it. So they hadn't cleared the trees out completely for agriculture. They had left everything around the creek bottom thick and full of trees. Wow,
what great bedding area. They bed in as you say, the ditch, and the food's right, 10 steps away.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's kind of the whole area where we hunted. We were in southwest Iowa, and that's kind of way there's timber blocks here and there, but a lot of it's just ditches that are, 20, 30 feet wide, but run the whole length of a section, so.
Wow. What kind of muzzleloader were you using?
Thompson Center Encore, and I shoot a 50 cal, and I shooting a 298 power belt with 130 grains of Paradex, and I had it, or I knew I could shoot a 6-inch group at 250 yards with it. So. Oh
my goodness! And everybody knows, that muzzleloaders are deadly. And when I was fortunate hunting in Iowa a couple of years ago with Judd Cooney and Cherry Yarborough, all their guns would be dead on. I mean, at 200 yards, all their muzzleloaders, and I used one of theirs, and. It's incredible. Once they set up right, it's like anything. You got to know your weapon. You got to set it up right and get everything right. But when you do, it comes to your shoulder and boom, it goes. And you really know where that bullet's going. Would you agree to that?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's when I first started muzzle hunting, of course, it was old cap and ball, and 75 yards was about all you were real comfortable with open sights and that, especially being a young kid starting out, and with the progression of technology and that, these new inlines and that, which is like I said, what I have now, it's amazing that if you do the ballistics on them and know your gun and shoot it, it's totally 250 yard gun, no problem.
Now, do you have to clean it every 5 times you shoot it, or 3 times? What's your clean barrel process?
When I'm target practicing in that, every 5 I'm swabbing, because you're going to start to get a little bit of flyers in that at that point. It isn't enough to be a big deal. When I'm out there hunting, I'm usually not shooting that many rounds, so I usually won't clean it until the end of the season, because most of the time I've only shot 5-6 rounds, depending on how many tags we had from opening morning to the end of that season. So
now, do you still go back to Iowa and hunt?
Haven't in a while. No, my mom actually has moved out here now, and so my in-laws still live back there, and would love to be able to put in and go back. Just haven't been able to the last couple of years. So,
how long does it take to get a late season tag?
It depends. They have some of them that if you're wanting to meat hunt, actually, they have over-the-counter tags for out of state. They're doe tags. And then depending on what season it is, sometimes it can be a 1 year up to, usually within 4 years, you will get it pretty much any tag you want, depending on zones. Obviously, there are some zones that are a little harder to get than others. But if you got your setup to be able to hunt most any zones, especially in that southwest corner, usually you can get a tag for one of the seasons about every year.
Now,
and then
go ahead.
And then, like I said, if you want to just go back just to have fun and fill the freezer, they have the over-the-counter doe tags that you can get.
Now, I'm a muzzleloader hunter, rifle hunter, and I hunt with a crossbow. In those ditches, if the ditch is only 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 feet at max, how do you set up your tree stands in that if you're archery hunting or hunting out of a tree?
A lot of places where I actually focused more on timber blocks, but I did have a few of my core areas that were close to where we lived that I knew very well, and looked for pinch points, areas where a couple ditches would come together, or a fence line came across and split the ditch to make a crossing in and out of the ditch for the deer. And hang stand, the one I had, it was actually the ditch forked, and one fork came in from the one side, and then the main part went down the other way, and there was like an island area in the middle where the deer would come and drink, and there was a fence line on the other side where they would come in from the back side of the property. And so I had to stand in the center of there and could shoot 40 yards any direction and could be able to cover the entire ditch from there.
Wow, it sounds like, if you know what you're doing, getting on private land in Iowa is getting tougher and tougher. Why? Because everybody puts up on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook their pictures of their Iowa bucks. And I've got some trail cameras from my buddy who hunted in Iowa this year, southwest of Des Moines, and he said, "Here's a 190 buck for you, Bruce. Good luck finding them."
And that's actually right where I was out. It's a little bit even farther south, but that southwest of Des Moines, but clear down towards the southern tier of the state. And like I said, I ran for a guide there for a while. We started with pheasant hunting, and then I got us into deer hunting. And the height of things, we had 100,000 acres over 5 counties down there.
Oh my goodness!
And just big buck mecca. And unfortunately, the owner wasn't very good at relationships with the locals, and so when I finally got tired of dealing with him, he lost everything because I was the only one keeping the locals, because he'd make them mad and they'd want us off the property, and I'd go talk to them and get us back on, and then I was trying to take us to the next level. I actually was in negotiation with the juries, and he didn't want to do any type of negotiating whatsoever, and I tried to stand my ground on it, but he didn't want to hear anything of it. And I said, well, if you're going to run your business this way, then I'm out. And then it ended up, the whole thing imploded on him.
Oh man, that's too bad. It
really was, because we had some of the best land in the entire area. Yeah. So
that's the way it is, and folks, lessons learned there. If you got relationships on your hunting properties, even if you're leasing it, even if it's been in the family for 100 years, keep those relationships up, because they sure can change. Somebody dies, somebody gets divorced, something happens, and all of a sudden you're going, oh, I can't hunt X anymore. And so,
yep.
Food for thought or lessons learned on that one, that's for sure. Now, talk to us about Calm Before the Kill TV. And before you do that, how can somebody get in touch with you, Ryan? How would you like them reach out to you?
I'm on Facebook. So you can look me up on there, and then through my personal page, or then also through Calm Before the Kill page. It has you'll be able to see my stuff on there, and message, and Bill will get a hold of me, or if I'm able to see the message before he does, I can get a hold of you. But probably the easiest way would be my personal Facebook page, because I have it set for anyone to be able to contact and follow me if they would like. So,
and are you on Twitter or Instagram?
I am on Twitter, though, being not so computer literate redneck that I am, I'm not 100% how to use it, but I do have one.
Okay. Well, good enough. Let's go back to Bill Dease and Calm Before the Kill TV. What's up with that?
It's been awesome. I've been with them since January. It's kind of when we got things ramped back up, and I was one of 3 pro staff that Bill chose to get things going again this year. And it's definitely been a challenge. With the video camera, I've never really done a whole lot of videoing before. So using the video camera and hunting at the same time, especially I don't have a camera guy, so most all my stuff is self-filmed. It's been a lot of fun, but definitely challenging. It's been really cool to be able to get my son. My oldest son is 10, and I got him out on his first turkey hunt this year, and he actually killed 2 birds on film this year. And that was actually on our 4th episode. So it's been a journey, and I'm looking forward to where it's going to go from here.
So if somebody's listening to the show, guy or gal, and they say, boy, I see people on YouTube and Pursuit Channel, how do I get into that? And how do I get connected with somebody that's already got a show running? What's advice would you give them tonight? I join Facebook and then make connections, make friendships with people. Even if you don't think anything can come of it, the more friendships and connections you can make means the more people that they may have a contact with. And then also how you present yourself. You've got to do the work. You can't expect someone to put you on their staff if you're not doing anything to put yourself out there or show them that you would be an asset to them. And so, that's what I've done is I've made connections. I've Facebook friends cleared up with Tyler Jordan, Philip Vanderpool. I'm friends with all those guys on Facebook and that, and just made connections and finally got an offer given. I've had a few offers. I'm pro staff for Outdoor Guys, which is a radio show up in Canada, and I'm with a couple of companies as well. But this one came along just because of literally I was friends with Bill Dease, and I followed his stuff for Calm Before the Kill, and made sure that stuff I posted was ethical and represented the way I felt I wanted to represent myself. And then that's how they're going to pick their people. They're scrolling through those pictures and that stuff, and the ones that are representing themselves the way they want their company represented are who they're going to contact to give them a position. And you've been on since January of 2016, is that correct?
Yes.
Great. And, listeners, you just got to work at it. And people ask me about my show, Whitetail Rendezvous, and why people come on the show is because, it's a discussion. We're sitting on the front porch and Trevor, Ryan and I are just sitting talking about some hunting adventures, and that's my show. And I want to bring that content to your home because some of you folks haven't had the same experiences as Ryan and I have, or Bill Dease, and there's hundreds. We're coming up on episode number 300 and almost up to 100,000 downloads. So people like to hear the stories, they like to learn, and I'll put a plug out. If you want to be on the show, and just contact me at whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. I'd love to talk to you, meet you on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and then see where it goes. But I love having people on the show. Just to share the stories because it's so much fun.
Oh yeah, it's like as hunters, we all have an automatic connection. We all have love for the outdoors, and there are a few of us that I think kind of take it to the next level. That we get just as much enjoyment out of bringing it to others as we do as something for ourselves, and I think that's really great. And it's great to meet more people that have that same passion. I love taking new people out, and especially kids and people that have never done it before. Like you come to me and say, "Hey, I've never done this before, and I want to get out there and do it." Certainly, I'm not a guide anymore. I'm not licensed here in Colorado, but if you want to come hunt with me, I'll take you hunting and show you what you need to do.
Well, and that's great. And, when we think about passing on traditions, it's important. I mean, because I just love seeing all the pictures on Facebook. Here's Bob or Johnny or Susie or Meredith or Scott, and they're 10, 12 years old, whatever the legal ages in their state, and they just shot their first doe or spike buck. It doesn't matter. They're out there hunting, and I get charged about that all the time.
Oh, totally. And then like this year, my cousin, her husband's little sister, she's only 12. There's quite an age gap between them, but they took her out of her first mule deer hunt in Nevada this year, and she killed a buck that's 33 inches wide, 5x6. Just absolute monster. Yeah. Her first year ever, and kills an absolute giant.
Oh my goodness. I've never, I've killed a couple of what I call decent mule deer, but I've never killed one over 180. And so, I still get that to look forward to. That's for sure. Hey, while we're on coming for the kill, what kind of video setup do you have?
So I've got a pretty simple setup. The main thing is that it's good quality HD. I shoot with a Canon Vixia. It's a HF R62. I think they just replaced it with the 700 now is the newer version of mine. It's a little tiny compact camera, doesn't weigh much, but it films full 1080. It actually has the capability of recording right into MP4, which for editing and that for the show is great because Bill doesn't have to do any conversion with it. It literally goes right into his editing software, and he can cut it apart and put it where it needs to be.
Now, a setup like that costs $400, $500, $200. I don't know. Yeah, my full setup is about $400, and that's I think you can actually get it on Amazon because I've got an external microphone on a tripod, and they have a package that I want to say it's $450, and you get all the stuff ready to go. Extra batteries, you get your external mic, you get your tripod. Pretty much everything you need to get started. Now, you mentioned a tripod. What kind of mounting bracket do you have if you're up in a tree? I use a Muddy Outdoors tree arm, and main thing on that is make sure it's got a smooth fluid head on it. Some of them can be a little jerky in that, and it really messes with your footage when it's sitting there just across the screen. So, I looked at several different ones, and Muddy has your basic one like mine, which is like $50 up to, you can get the real expensive ones for the heavy cameras that are a couple $100, so they really have something for every level that you're at. Well, Ryan, we're at the point in the show. You get a minute or two to, give shout outs and then we'll wrap the show. All right. Well, definitely shout out to Bill Dease. I can't thank him enough for this opportunity. The dream for any of us to be able to hunt and film, and hopefully one day we'll be able to turn this thing into a career for us. But main thing is just we're all out here having a lot of fun. Shout out to my cousin who just killed his once in a lifetime desert bighorn there in Nevada. So no way. Pretty awesome letter. Yep. Oh, props. Yeah, I guided my other cousin to his last year, and then my other cousin Drew this year, and he got his to literally just 2-3 days ago. So. Oh my goodness! So if I put in for Nevada and draw, I better call you, huh? I've got, depending on where you're going, I've got a couple of units I know right where to go. So the one we were after for my cousin was a easily mid 160s to 170, and we didn't get on him, but he still got one. And then my uncle and my cousin both killed one out of the same unit. They're both mid 150 rams. Wow! How hard is it to take a desert bighorn with a crossbow? Based on my experience, I would say that'd be pretty difficult because the areas they are wide open. There is no cover whatsoever. If you had a lot of time to spend on the herd we were on, you could have probably gotten close enough to one because there was a lot of rock outcroppings and stuff right in the area where they were bedding. But you'd have been spending a lot of hours up there having them within 100 yards of you and just not coming close enough because that's what they were just milling around up there. The other area that where they were hunting, it's a bunch of mesas, and there's literally nothing. It is flat. Once you get they're steep cliffs, but once you get on top of them, it is literally just flat for miles. Oh my goodness! And so
Yeah, trying to get on one of those boys in Nevada with a crossbow, that would be quite a feat if you could pull that off. I'm sure there are some other units that are a little harder to draw that probably have a little more cover in them that you'd have a better chance at. But the units I've been in, boy, it'd be pretty difficult.
Well, thanks for that, and thanks for that, and thanks for the shout out. And on behalf of thousands and soon to be 100,000 listeners here at Whitetail Rendezvous, Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show, and Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, and I really appreciate having me.
Stay tuned for the next show. Garrett Rowe out of Hayes, Kansas, has a unique style of hunting. He hunts the lockdown. He loves hunting the lockdown. He developed a product called Heads Up Decoy, and he is aggressive on lockdown bucks, and he's got some bucks to prove it. Stay tuned. You're going to love this one.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.